Okay, the stream should be live. And they should just see the Wood Whisperer logo up. I'll give it a few minutes to do what it's gonna do, yo. Hi, everybody. Bye, everybody. Want to kill some time at work? Stream. Ooh, might want to kill that audio.
I didn't know.
Want to anger your boss? Come spend some time with the Wood Whisperer. Unless you're in Europe. How's dinner? Do they call it, what do they call it in Europe? Is it supper? Vittles? What do they call it in Europe?
Vittles.
Tender vittles?
No, that's cat.
Oh, that's cat food. Meow mix? You crazy Europeans and your funny foods.
Biscuits.
Biscuits and bangers and mash.
Bangers and mash.
Chips. Of course, these are all just like British things. Okay, I got the stream on. Hey, there's my logo.
Yeah.
Hey, there's me. Back to the logo, back to me. Probably should have gotten myself a drink, but too late for that. All right, if you're ready, I'm ready. Nicole.
Ready. Make sure you let everybody know in the chat room kind of what I'm doing. I don't know.
Well, Nicole's over here. She's just doing stuff.
I'm just doing stuff.
You know, what Nicole does. All right, we're ready to roll?
Yeah, I think so.
A little bit late, 5 minutes late, but let's get this party started. You got to get ready to do the giveaway announcement stuff?
You have them on the form.
What?
They should be in the
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
But you're going to do the announcements.
Yeah.
But it's here, yeah.
Do you want me to do that?
So look, I know about the hair. I don't want to hear it. I need a haircut. So let's just get it out of the way. I don't look more tired than I usually look. I just look more tired when I have longer hair. So I will be going to Great Clips this afternoon to celebrate another successful live show. Stop giving me crap about my hair. Okay, let's get this thing started.
Okay.
Last time it was brought to my attention that I failed to remind folks who we are and who this fine lady over here is. So maybe a little introduction is I think, relevant at this point. My name is Mark Spagnolo. I run a website called thewoodwhisperer.com where we talk about woodworking and all things related to woodworking. So if you're not familiar, go check that out or check out our YouTube channel, which you should be able to access very easily through this video. And over here is my lovely wife, Nicole. She's my right-hand woman, or in this case, my left-hand woman.
Hi.
And without her, none of this would go. So basically, this is our live format show where we just do a bunch, it's like a variety show.
Yeah.
Do a bunch of different things. And we're going to start out with our giveaway winner announcement. And also, this month's giveaway is fantastic.
Yes.
We're outdoing ourselves every month.
Are we?
Yes, we are.
I'm trying hard.
We're trying. So we have the winners to announce very quickly.
Yes. So
There you go.
it's July now, and in June we gave away a ArborTech mini grinder and a Fuji Spray Mini Mite, was it?
Yeah, the mini mic
HVLP system.
HVLP turbine system.
And the lucky winners are, Noah Mudge. He won the ArborTech mini grinder, and Tanya Roberts. She won the HVLP system. The way that these contests work, if you go to thewoodwhisperer.com/giveaway, has all the information, has the widget. We also have it on the Facebook page, which is facebook.com/thewoodwhisperer. Basically, we're just working with different companies, and they're giving us tools to give away to you guys. And
why not, right?
Yeah.
If we've massaged these relationships over the years and I could squeeze some free tools out for you guys, why wouldn't we do that?
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And July is no exception. We have an awesome giveaway going on right now.
So cool.
For a Powermatic floor standing drill press.
It's awesome. I'm actually kind of jealous. I have the old one and I'm lucky to have that, but holy smokes.
This gets great reviews on Amazon. I was reading some of the reviews.
It really does. It's so good.
Unfortunately, if you're listening to this and you're not in either the United States or Canada, I'm sorry, it's not personal. Giveaway rules and regulations in other countries get really complicated, and because of the value of the tool, it just gets really sticky quick.
Yeah, international giveaway laws, you have to sort of conform to the laws in every region that you have the giveaway. So think about that globally. It's impossible for people like us, small companies like us.
The two of us.
Yeah, to figure all it, just the liability is an issue, so we apologize. But it doesn't mean we love you. Enjoy your bangers and mash as we do our show, right?
I guess.
Okay, so yeah, so that's it. Thewoodwhisperer.com/giveaway if you want to sign up for the giveaway. Every month it seems to be more awesome than the last.
And I have giveaways, I plan all of these, so I have giveaways planned into 2015. So people win. I mean, Noah and Tanya won. We've given away a table saw in the past. I have more Festool to give away this year. I have more Arbortech to give away.
Right.
I have all kinds of cool stuff. I'm so excited.
It's awesome.
All right.
Get out of here, sister.
Bye.
Okay, so let's move on to the next bit of stuff, goodness, deliciousness. We've got some news announcements, and let's start out with a thank you. I got one of the coolest things I've ever received, because it's actually not even for me, it's for my son. Let's see, Dennis DeMichael, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Thank you, Dennis, for sending this. Dennis is an engineer that works with the Blue Angels and asked if we would like a poster for Mateo, and they actually, in a really nice script, wrote his name on the top, sent us a couple of posters signed by the Blue Angels dudes, right? How cool is that? I know as a kid I would have loved to have something like this, so I figured more appropriate than hanging it in my shop would be to put it up in my son's bedroom. So he doesn't quite get it just yet, but he will soon. So thank you so much for that, Dennis. I really appreciate it. How awesome is that? We love the Air Force here at the, well, that's the Navy, right? Blue Angels is Navy, but we do love the Air Force here.
You're right.
Over the house.
Yep.
All the time. Oh, why are you airing out over there?
I don't know.
You might have to sign in again.
Right.
YouTube likes to sign you out. Okay, next up, very quick announcement. We've got a sale coming up at the Wood Whisperer store where you can get, I believe, 20% off Tuesday, July 8th. It's our Christmas in July sale that my mom gets all excited about and likes to do. So give my mom something to do. Go buy a shirt or something. I'm wearing a Wood Whisperer shirt here today. We believe in having very high quality shirts. We don't sell crappy shirts. We get them made ourselves. We have a family member that does screen printing, so it's all done by us and really good quality stuff. So Wood Whisperer Guild shirts, regular t-shirts. My hybrid woodworking book is going to be on sale, DVDs, all that stuff. There are a few things like Guild membership gift certificates are not applicable for this. And the discount is not to be combined with other discounts, so just keep that in mind. But July 8th, mark your calendar and go buy some stuff. My parents need something to do. All right, let's jump into our featured viewer project. This is always a lot of fun. We take one of the projects we posted over at the Wood Whisperer that you may have missed and highlight it. And this one today is from Corey. Let's take a look at his bed. It is a Purple Heart and walnut bed. He says it took about 3 months of nights and weekends. I think he has a day job that's in a shop, and he was able to use the shop in the evenings and on the weekends to finish this up. It gave us a nice story. You could read about it on the Wood Whisperer, but finished it up with some Minwax wipe-on poly. Not everybody's going to love that Purple Heart walnut combination, but I got to say I'm a fan. And check this out. Look at that footboard. Some beautiful book-matched panels. Had to do some veneer work to get that done, the moldings. I mean, this is nice stuff. This is really nice stuff. Well done, Corey. Beautiful work. Reminds me of some David Marks stuff. I think David Marks was the first woodworker I saw that used Purple Heart, and I think he did a couple of pieces, or at least one piece, that had that combination of Purple Heart and walnut, if I'm not mistaken. Beautiful stuff. All right, let's move on. Oh, by the way, Should mention that if you want to submit your own project, you can do that. thewoodwhisperer.com/contact/submit-your-project. Because we believe in very simple URLs at The Wood Whisperer. But send us your project. We can't guarantee that we're going to publish all of them. We get too many. We kind of have to be a little picky about what we publish. But please feel free to submit it. It doesn't always have to be a masterpiece. We actually publish a lot of projects that are from new woodworkers. It's good for inspiration. All right, so let's go into our kickback segment. But y'all, that's where you give us feedback on something, or you send me an email with a question, and it becomes a good conversation point, and we'll be able to talk about it today. Someone asked me, Patrick Johnson, we had a conversation on Facebook at one point, and the question of wood movement came up, and Patrick said I don't remember exactly what he said, I couldn't find the quote, but he wanted to know if the concern over wood movement is a bit overblown. And I think depending on where you live, sometimes wood movement is more or potentially less of an issue. So from someone's perspective, it might not be such a big deal. But the truth is, yes, you do have to worry about wood movement, always. There are some basic rules that you need to follow when it comes to wood movement. You really just don't want to restrict the movement across the board. Now we're talking, generally speaking, flat sawn material, which is what most of us will get access to. They move across the grain. You can see I've got these arrows showing you where most of the movement is going to take place. So there are things that you can do. You can glue these two boards like this, because now everything kind of just moves in unison as it expands and contracts over the course of the seasons. That's okay. What is not okay is when you put these perpendicular. All right, and if you restrict the movement like this, you could see those arrows are not going in the same direction. So as this board tries to expand and contract, it's restricted by this board. And depending on the size of the board, you may or may not have problems. But the bigger the board, the more movement, and you have to allow for that movement. So to sort of more directly answer the question if wood movement is necessary, let's look at a couple of boo-boos, a couple of situations where folks maybe didn't make all the best decisions concerning wood movement or maybe underestimated it. And I'll start with me, because I have no problem making fun of myself. You guys may remember the rustic outdoor table that we built on the site a couple of months ago. Right, beautiful table, still in my backyard. Although the breadboards don't quite look as good as they did on day one, this is what the breadboards look like today. Each side has shrunk down by about a 1/4 inch, so that's a full 1/2 inch movement across that top. Now, thinking back on it, I think the wood was probably just a little bit more wet than I'm used to here in Arizona, so I got a lot of shrinkage. Do they know about shrinkage? Seinfeld reference. And it's always bad if you have to explain the reference. So yeah, I got about a 1/2 inch of shrinkage there, and you could see the effects in that breadboard. Here's another example. Also, see, breadboard ends are a good example for this because that is a cross-grain situation. We'll get into that in a minute, but if you look very closely here, that's a green and green coffee table that's sitting in my living room, and if you look at that area where the ebony spline is, that spline is supposed to be proud of the breadboard, and it's sunken in, which tells you that that top, the center portion of that top, has shrunk down and sucked it in a little bit. And that's because I built this project in California, in Southern California, brought it home to Arizona, and naturally, it's less humid here, so it shrunk. All right. Now let's move into someone else's. Let's make fun of someone else today. We're not making fun. We're just pointing out crap that happens, right? We're all learning as we go. Dan Reitler sent this to me. He says, this is a California redwood bar top that I installed at a customer's house last summer. This crack opened up after the long winter here in Michigan. Now, this isn't something, it doesn't look to me like he violated any sort of rules of wood movement, but with wide boards, big wide slabs like that, you do have movement issues. The wood is a natural product and it just naturally moves with changes in humidity and conditions. So sometimes cracks just open up. It's unfortunate, but that's how it goes. Now here's a really cool example. You're gonna love this. Look at this gorgeous table. Absolutely gorgeous. Nice circle design. He's got a metal plate in the center. This is from Matt Downer. He said, I'll tell you what's a downer is what happens to this table, Matt. Over time, expansion and contraction between these boards caused a big split. And what Matt realized he needed to do, as crazy as it may seem, he had to cut this into slices to rework it, because the problem was it would continue to crack. Even if he repairs the crack, it wouldn't actually stop it from happening again. So by cutting it into slices, And then he added some reinforcement underneath. I mean, it's kind of a re-engineering of the whole thing, but it makes it work. Using some angle iron and other things, he basically reattached the slices, and now they have, think about a concrete situation where you have those expansion gaps between the pieces, and that's what was necessary to get this thing to survive the seasons. Right? Wood movement will always win if you're not obeying the rules. All right, so unfortunately, yeah, you do need to pay attention to wood movement. Now, the bigger the board, the more you have to consider. Also, this changes based on species, the conditions that the piece is left in, as well as the time of year. Sometimes, if you're building in the winter, you have different conditions than if you're building in the summer. So you have to keep that in mind. Now, a really handy tool that I'll recommend for you is the Woodshop widget. That's an app, and also it's on the website. You could use it there too as a little flash deal. Very, very cool. There's a wood movement calculator. You select your wood, you select the type of cut that it is, and you can change either the moisture content or the relative humidity and show how it will change over the course of that change in humidity. So does it expand and contract 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch, a full inch? You know, you could really find out all the details. And that's a tool that I use all the time to estimate how much movement I'm going to have to deal with. So you might be wondering then, we showed some breadboard ends before, right? So how do breadboard ends work? Why is that okay? Here's a breadboard end top on a little jewelry box that we're going to be making here on the show soon. And you can see I violated that rule that I said before not to violate. Expansion of this panel will be across this way, and this piece isn't really going to expand much this way. It might expand just a little bit, you know, in that direction, and there's nothing stopping it from doing that. So we have a problem where this breadboard end restricts the movement of this panel. So how do we get around it? Well, it all comes down to the construction method. Here's an example of a green and green breadboard end. In fact, this is the coffee table that I showed you before that now has a bit of a problem. If you look closely there, I'm only adding glue to the center, which, you know, makes sense. You glue it at the center, the panel can expand and contract at the end, you leave it so that the tongue and groove joint has a little bit of room at the very end, but you're only securing it with glue in the middle, so everything can expand. But you still need to secure it at the ends, because otherwise you might actually see the ends of the breadboard pull away from the panel. So how do you do that? Well, in this case, you see those screws sitting on top of the panel? Those screws will go in oversized holes, so there won't be any glue at the ends, but we will have screws that will pull it nice and tight while still allowing some flexibility side to side. All right, and that is the methodology you use for breadboard ends. Works really well. The thing is, you don't always want to use screws, right? There are times where screws just aren't appropriate. On green and green, you can cover those screws up with ebony plugs, and it looks great. But you can't necessarily get away with that, especially you look at this example here, there's no room for screws here. So how do we make sure that it's nice and tight at the ends? Well, this brings up another thing that came up on Facebook recently. There's a video here, a little clip that I have from, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Doucette and Wolf, right? Great furniture makers, amazing furniture makers. They posted this video showing a trick that they used with a sprung joint, and I'll show you a clip that might be a little hard to make out because it's very light in color, but it's a maple breadboard end, and it's a sprung joint, and we'll talk about it in a second, but you'll see they're adding clamping pressure. That's the center right there where that little gap is. Tight at the ends. Now they're going to tighten the clamp in the middle. The gap in the middle is removed, and then it's now really tight at the ends. Right, so that methodology is doing, if you've never heard of it before, it's called a sprung joint, where you actually induce a little bit of a curvature in the board, so that when you clamp it in the center, the board has no choice. It's going to go nice and tight in the center, but by the time you pull it all the way in the middle, you've really secured those outside edges. So essentially, it's kind of under tension. So if you just apply glue in the middle, squeeze it in with that one clamp, the outside should stay nice and tight. And that's actually, that was what was done for this as well. It's on a smaller scale than that, but the concept still works very well. The other thing with sprung joints is they can be great for panel glue ups. So I'm going to show you an example of a sprung joint. We'll actually cut one here. It's very easy to do. As you're putting these two boards together, when you do wide panel glue ups, one of the problems that people have not only in applying the pressure properly, but having enough clamps to do it. So what's great about a sprung joint is most of the time you only really need one clamp right at the middle. So you bring that gap together and the outsides are already sort of applying pressure just based on the geometry of the joint. All right, so I'm going to put these two boards together. Let's move the camera here real quick. You're going to want to be over there.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to the vise, the leg vise. Okay, which is my side here. So this one has already been worked, has just a barely perceptible. Let me know. It's got a little bit of a scoop, a little bit of a belly in it. So this one is now dead straight right off of the jointer. So let's put it into the leg vise. And the process for doing this, super easy. All you really need to do is get a smooth plane. You want something that's going to have a nice light touch. And let's focus down on the board here. Okay, and what I'm really trying to do is remove some stock from the middle. Now, my plane only takes a few thou at a time when it takes a shaving. Very light. All right, this is gossamer, as they say, gossamer stuff. So what I'm going to do is remove material from the middle as best as I can. Sometimes you have to skew the plane to get the blade to work right. Right, and as soon as I remove pretty much as the plane is going to let me remove right here, I can start going back a little bit, working out toward the ends. And this should be the last one. By doing that, what I've effectively done is created a little bit of a scoop. I haven't removed anything from the outside edges, just a little bit in the middle. Now, this is really tough to see, so you have to bear with me. Maybe take my word for it. But when we put these two together, you should see that there's just a little bit of a gap in the middle. Is that even coming out on the camera?
Where's the middle? Oh.
See that? That's how good I am. She didn't even know it was two boards. Anyway, there's a microscopic gap. You might be able to put a feeler gauge in there to find it. It doesn't have to be very much. But now if I just apply clamping pressure right in the center across this panel, that's all I need to close this joint up. Okay, let's hit back to center on the camera. By the way, if you watch the recorded version of this, you'll find that things move a little bit faster because we cut out all this other stuff. Right, let me line it up. Okay. Let's see what else. Now, you don't really want to be excessive with sprung joints because it is putting the board in tension. Now, over time, you kind of, wood can sort of be trained, obviously, with bent lamination and stuff like that. You can tell wood to do something else. If you keep it in that position long enough, it tends to say, okay, I give up, you win. But it is under tension, and you want to make sure that you use that technique sparingly. I honestly don't really use it that often in my work for joining panels. I just go two flat ends and put them together, or two flat sides, put them together. But it is something to be aware of, and it's a pretty cool technique when you understand how it works. Now, I also have a resource to recommend this was submitted by Mike Orsted. It's a fine woodworking article by Gary Rogalski that's called Spring Joints, an Edge Glue Up's Best Friend. And it kind of goes over the whole logic and explains what we did and probably shows you a couple of other techniques. Coming up in a couple of minutes, we're going to show you a video clip of Glenn Huey using power tools to do a sprung joint. So now that we know what a sprung joint is, we'll be able to understand what he's talking about. All right, so in case you missed it, this is stuff that we found online, things that are going around the community that you probably want to be aware of, and I think is pretty cool stuff. Let's start with a video from April Wilkerson. You guys might have heard her. She's relatively new on YouTube, but has some really great videos showing some projects and techniques that she's into. Seems like a really nice person and talented as well. She is trying to spread the word about a program or an organization called Garden of Innocence. And it's very sad. I don't mean to bring the mood down here, but it's a California-based organization, and their goal is to give a proper resting place to children and infants who essentially have been abandoned and found deceased. So no one claims them, and they feel like it's the right thing to do, to give a proper burial. And a lot of them are cremated, and this organization needs help with that because they need to have the boxes made, the urns. And there's a couple other things that you could do to help out too, but this is right up woodworkers alley, right? I mean, this is what many woodworkers live to do. When I go to my local organization, the Arizona Woodworkers, they talk about building toys all the time, and they want to build these toys for kids in hospitals. Woodworkers love to build things for people when it really matters. There's a lot of heart in the community, and this video clip will show you exactly what I'm talking about with April's effort here. So let me cue that up for you real quick.
So anytime that a child is abandoned and goes unclaimed, this organization will step in and claim the child. They will provide the child with a name and then proceed to give it a full-service memorial. If there is any way that you could also lend your time and resources to help out, it would be going towards a very good cause.
When all storm clouds rise, will they tell me of a home? When all storm clouds rise, oh, they tell me of an unclouded day.
All right, beautiful stuff. The plans, or the modified version, or April's version of the plans, are available on her website, and you can go to gardenofinnocence.com, and they have published plans there where you could build one of these things and send it to them. So it's a great cause. If you want to get involved, definitely do so. Really good stuff, and thank you, April, for bringing that to our attention. Another, this maybe will lift the mood a little bit here. Bob Lang wrote an article recently called "The 6 Most Important Woodworkers I've Ever Known." This is about an experience he had over at the Andy Chidwick's school, and who is the guy's name? Matson, I guess? Basically, they take underprivileged kids who are in a situation, as they say, falling through the cracks, and try to give them a little bit of guidance, let them experience making things with their hands in hopes of kind of refocusing their attention and putting them on the right path. So Andy has this fantastic program where these kids come to the school and they learn and build, and Bob Lang was able to be there to, I don't know exactly, I think he was assisting and sort of just being there to be Bob Lang from Popular Woodworking, which would be nice in and of itself. But these kids built a bunch of chairs, absolutely beautiful chairs. And here's a look at these fine young faces here. And it's just a really great experience. When you read Bob's article, of course, we'll have the link there for you. It's really inspiring. And here's a little quote from Bob. He says, "When I look at the 5 students in the class, I see the future of woodworking and a solution to many of the problems our society faces. The headline of this post mentions the 6 most important woodworkers I know. Number 6 is the young man at the left in the picture. He graduated from the North Salem woodworking program 2 years ago. When he entered the program, he was thinking about dropping out of school. Instead, he graduated, now works full-time as a teaching assistant in the program, and is a full-time college student pursuing a degree in education." Doesn't get a whole lot better than that, does it? So if you want to read more about this or learn more about this, this is a yearly program that Andy does over there. Go to chidwickschool.com. And Andy's got a bunch of things. Check out his website. He's got a program there that you could sign up for as well, but really inspiring stuff. Fantastic. Also, we've got a clip here from the Highland Woodworker, one of my favorite woodworking shows. If you've been yearning for that sort of TV-style woodworking show, this is where you're going to get it online, is the Highland Woodworker. This one features Glenn Huey, Megan Fitzpatrick, and Jalen Wagoner. If you're not familiar, he's sort of the young woodworking whiz kid who's, you find him actually published in a lot of places. He gets a lot of attention for his work, and it's well-deserved. He makes some great things, so there's a nice interview with him. And let's take a look at this clip featuring Glenn Huey and showing how he makes that sprung joint using his jointer.
Okay, even on your dead flat joiner bed right now, you can see the fact that we're tight back here at the back, we're tight up at the front, but you can even see right now that it's raising up off of that bed just a little bit. So when I bring these two over and I put them down side by side, you can see what's going on. I'm tight at the ends, but I've got that gap in the center.
And so now do you have to put a whole bunch of clamps on it, the front and back?
You would think so with a gap that big, but this is where the spring joint really pays dividends. I can go and put glue on both sides of this, put one clamp in the dead center, pull this into where I get a little squeeze out, and after that I'm going to be tight on these two ends where one clamp's all I need to glue up this piece. Up to about 24 inches I can get by with one single clamp. Think of the time it saves.
Now, if you've been suffering through joiner setup woes, maybe this is a good solution. Make it intentionally set in properly. I don't know that I'll be doing that to my joiner anytime soon. My problem with the jointer in this example, and if it works for Glenn, that's awesome. I get a little nervous about it because I feel like the jointer is really good at making straight cuts, doesn't really do so well at making curves. But I guess if you're taking very, very small amounts, what is a curve but a bunch of straight lines in very small increments, connected to make a curve? So if you go small enough with the cut, maybe it works really well. But I use my jointer for too many things where I want my knives to be set perfect that I don't think I would do that. But it is cool to know that someone who's as experienced as he is can fine-tune his power tools to do things that maybe you and I never even thought of. Very cool stuff. Glenn's a good dude. Love his stuff. All right, we're going to do in the shop right now. This is where I show you what the latest stuff is. A lot of times, because I don't make as much free content these days, people have the impression that I'm not doing anything. When in reality, I am working my butt off, but a lot of it is for the guild. Take a look over here. My Moorish chair is assembled for the most part. And I want to give you a little bit of a preview. Just no major camera stuff, just turn it over here. I wish I could sit in it. I'm kind of tired. This is the bow arm Moorish chair, freshly assembled, has the first coat of finish on it. I just used a little bit of water locks to kind of bring a little bit of color and life to it, and then I'm going to finish it with some lacquer, Sherwin-Williams lacquer. With chairs, with all the different parts, it's so, I don't want to do it all by hand, so something like this I really prefer to go to a spray. But love this design. We've got a contoured back. You can see it actually can recline, and I've got pins here. These little turned pins, I made these on the lathe, right? And those go into holes and that support the backrest. And there's 4 holes, so we've got multiple reclining positions. And we'll have a seat in here that's going to get upholstered. There's a nice little footrest, beautiful through tenons here on the top. And my only dilemma at this point is I don't know where the heck I'm going to put this chair. Eventually you start building, like for the website, I build so many things that are not necessarily for me. I just build them because I want to or they've been requested, that it becomes a little tricky to find out what to do with all this stuff. My mom pretty much wants everything that I make. So that's always a problem. But it's a good problem to have, I guess, right? But I'm really happy with it. It came out great. If you're interested in this particular project, you can go to thewoodwhispererguild.com to find out about that. And my plan is to take some of the technique excerpts from this build and we'll publish those on the free site as well for folks who don't want to join the guild. But I'm really happy with it.
I didn't realize you were this far along.
Girlfriend, I've been busting my hump. All right. So I've got a couple of questions queued up from the community that came in from the hashtag TWW Live.
And I also sent you 2 from the YouTube stream.
Oh wait, you know what? I skipped something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's go back one. Very quickly, I get a lot of books and DVDs that come in, so I want to make you aware of them. This one I thought was really cool. I haven't read through the whole thing because it actually just came in yesterday, but it's Civil War Woodworking Volume 2 by A.J. Hamler. Got to look at the cover here. I know a lot of you are probably history buffs. I know when I'm cruising around the boob tube and I see some historical thing, it's hard for me to turn away. I enjoy it. And this is a bunch of projects that are relevant to the time period. And I guess like some of the folks who do the reenactment stuff, things that they use in their, I don't know, what do you call that? When they play dress up. What's that called?
Civil War reenactment. reenactment?
I called it a reenactment, but they play dress up.
It's what, no,
It's like it's cosplay for old dudes, right? So yeah, anyway, it's Civil War woodworking. It's really cool. A lot of fun little projects, fairly simple projects with period relevance, which is pretty darn cool. So check that out. We'll give you a link, of course, for that. And now let's get into some of the live Q&A. Now Nicole's going to pull 3 questions for me. We take questions from both our chat room at thewoodwhisperer.com/live, and we also pull questions from our YouTube channel where this video is posted. So I don't know what she's going to pick. It's always a mixed bag.
2.
She's got 2 already. So let's hope they're good.
Not the topic you were talking about
That's fine. Where are the questions?
in your chat.
What chat? Oh, I got to log in, don't I?
Oh, you didn't.
Sorry. Send me a message again so it pops up, and I should see the old ones. So bear with us. She is sending the questions through a server to bounce back down to my laptop. I don't see any questions.
You gotta click the links.
Oh, the Google Plus links? Ah, she's getting all high-techy on me here. Okay, first question. This is from the Weekend Woodworker. He says, is there a way to anticipate shrinkage by the type of wood? That's a bad question. I actually answered that with the... Pick another one. We'll skip that one. The woodshop widget is the answer to that. Yeah, you can always anticipate based on the species, the cut, and the type of wood that it is. Woodshop widget is a great way to do that. Next question, y'all, from Bob Wilson, it looks like. Bob asks, what about when sealed? I have heard, don't worry about movement if you seal it in poly. Well, Bob, that's bad advice. Bottom line is, finishes, film finishes, they will slow down the absorption and loss of moisture. Definitely will slow it down, and it does help to stabilize your projects, but it is not impervious to moisture. You still will get some of that. So I would never trust the finish to control wood movement completely. That's a great way to find yourself with some cracked boards. Right? So if you always just follow the rules of wood movement and then finish it, you're going to have, for the most part, you're going to stack the cards in your favor. Hey, there are times even if you follow all the rules as you know them and then finish it, where you still may have problems. So let's stack the cards in our favor and make sure that at least we follow the rules. There's a good chance that nothing disastrous is going to happen. That's all I have to say about that. Got another one for me?
Yeah, I've already sent it to you.
That's one. Adrian asks, what's the difference between poly, lacquer, shellac, and all? Boy, that's a big question. Honestly, my recommendation, if you're at sort of that big picture level of questions, is get yourself a good finishing book. Jeff Jewett has a great book from Taunton Press, and Bob Flexner from Popular Woodworking. Michael Dresner is another author that makes great finishing books. All these guys will review in excruciating detail the differences between the various finishes. Basically, in a nutshell, they differ by the solvent that's used to dissolve them and what the components are. Usually it's some sort of a resin and a solvent together. But each one has different properties. They all tend to be, they act a little differently, they apply a little differently. Some are more appropriate for certain situations, but it's a little more than we can cover sort of in the scope of this presentation today. But my best recommendation is just to get one of these classic books. You can also find this information online for free. You don't have to buy a book, but you'll have to dig around a little bit more for it. But yeah, there are significant differences between them, and those books will definitely help you with that. One more question.
One more question.
How are we doing on time?
We're fine.
You know what? We can ask even, we'll throw in more questions. They may not all make it into the edited version because I want to keep it concise. So then I could cherry pick. Oh, my foot itches like a, you know what? Hold on. I don't know why my ankle's itching. Okay. Question from Woodfan4264. If wood has very low moisture, but it still has moisture, and it is finished, how does the wood further dry? How does the moisture escape through the finish? That's what we just talked about.
I'm sorry, I'm not listening.
She's not listening, she's just collecting questions. Well, a little bit more. Basically, the moisture is sort of it's not off-gassing, but it's going through the finish. Gas can penetrate, and moisture can penetrate through a finish. It may be slow, but it will penetrate, all right, and it will also leave. So it's sort of traveling from an area of more moisture to an area of less moisture, or vice versa. If the environment has more moisture in it, the wood will seek to reach equilibrium, and it will pull that moisture in. The finish just slows it down. Those finishes are not completely impervious to moisture vapor. Somewhere, there might be some finish out there. Most of us aren't using this stuff. Some industrial finish, maybe a big thick layer of epoxy might be fairly impervious to moisture. But we don't usually use those on our typical projects. All right. Hey, it's Joe. Can never have enough Joe in your life. How much time does filming add to a project? Have you ever had to remake some portion just because you feel you didn't capture it well enough? Joe, that gets minimized over time. My redos, unless I really just completely jack something up, very rarely do I have to go back and refilm it. But filming a project adds, I would say without a doubt, at least 100% more time to the process. Because it's like a ball and chain. I look at my camera and my tripod as the ball and chain that I drag with me through the shop, because everything has to be filmed. And then, for maybe a 20-minute video, you're looking at a full day of editing inside the office, so that is adding to the time that I could be building something. I'm sacrificing a day for the editing process. So it does slow you down dramatically. Now, depending on how you edit a video, if you're doing a lot of voiceover work, you can actually film faster, because now you're just filming the action. I don't have to talk. But when I address the camera like this, and I've got the microphone on and all that stuff, that really slows me down. Nick Ferry wants to know, would you ever do a joint build with Nicole, or a build-off, something simple, not requiring many tools? First of all, I will never build a project with Nicole. She's dangerous.
No, I'm not.
I don't trust her in the shop. Actually, this is something we talked about this. She has a couple of projects she'd really like to make for our son, Mateo. And I thought it would be fun to have her come in, and I can kind of guide her through the process, but she would do the bulk of the work. So that is something, if we can have time between guild builds, I'd love to do that. We've got a couple of projects in mind. We do collaborative builds, and I wouldn't call it a build-off. I don't really get too much into competitive stuff in woodworking. It's not really my style. I like watching it, I just don't like doing it. We are, in all likelihood, going to collaborate with Steve from Mere Mortals again on this year's cancer charity for woodworkers fighting cancer. So we're kind of batting ideas back and forth right now, but expect that this fall. And if everything pans out, instead of just kind of like last year, it was last minute, we brought Steve into the fold, we're sort of both going to, full force go into it and build projects that have slight differences between them. And he's going to go for a little bit more of a simplified basic design, and mine will be, it'll be in our styles, essentially. Mine will be a little bit more complex with a little more complex joinery. And this way we can cover the wide variety of woodworkers out there and get the most money possible for this charity. So this year, I think, is going to be a killer event. So yeah, we do collaborations as well. But again, that's not a build-off, it's a charity effort. Flea Dog. It's so nice not to have problems with fleas, isn't it? Mm. In Arizona, I don't know, maybe it's just our house, but I don't think fleas are very common out here.
Sand fleas. Sand
fleas? Yeah, they give you, what is that, desert fever or something? Yeah. What's your favorite species of wood to work with? I don't really have a favorite. I like all of our domestic hardwoods, cherry and walnut and maple. Those are just favorites of mine. Wood, to me, it's kind of like your weapon of choice, and just like, maybe a weapon is just a bad analogy for this, I'm thinking, as we move into violence here, but it's kind of like if you're trying to do something specific with the project, either the function of the project or the look, your palette of choices is immense with all these different woods, and some of them just aren't appropriate for certain things. So I don't really have so much a favorite, but there are times when, okay, I'm building an outdoor project, here's my selection of weapons that I can use to beat the crap out of something. But I can use these different woods to build this project so it will last outdoors. Or I need to build this thing so that it does well in a kitchen. or as a dining room table. So I look at it as a variety of things, and I have little favorites within there, but I don't really have one go-to favorite. I just like all types of hardwoods. Softwoods I have a little less love for, but exotics are really nice. You'll see me use a lot of Babinga, although it's expensive, but I love it. Matthew S., great question. He says, hey Mark, how far can I get with a contractor's grade table saw, and what issues will I run into? I don't have the room or budget for a cabinet saw. Thanks. Matthew, you can get as far as you want with that saw. Don't be deceived into thinking that you absolutely need a cabinet saw to do really good woodworking. I've known folks who use, there's a whole forum dedicated to the BT3 saw, and it's just a little rinky-dink saw that all these people just absolutely love because it was kind of one of those diamond in the rough sort of products. And a lot of people rallied behind it, and there are amazing projects coming off of a saw like that. The problems you're going to run into is a lot of times you may have a saw that doesn't have the best fence on it, so it may not be a reliable fence that sets down dependably in the same position every time, or may not line up perfectly the way you want it. That might be an issue. Your table may be a little bit small. That can certainly be remedied with an outfeed table. Well, and also the table saw fence is something you could always replace or modify the one you have to try to make it work better. You can build outfeed and infeed support if you want to. I've seen people who take those little portable saws and build a whole table around it. So now support is no longer an issue. The third thing you probably confront is power. If it's not powerful enough, you're going to have trouble with thicker hardwoods, but use the right blade and things suddenly become a lot easier. So if it's an underpowered saw, go with a thin kerf blade. If you're making rips, go with a thin kerf, but also go with a rip configuration for the teeth. Something that doesn't have a whole lot of teeth will cut through like butter, even if you only have a 1.5 horsepower. So if you use the right materials, use good quality sharp blades, and add some things to the saw, you will never necessarily hit a wall with a contractor grade saw. It may not work as well. There may be things that my saw can do a little bit better, or maybe a little bit more reliable in, but it isn't a deal breaker, so don't get it into your head that you need that cabinet saw. And my recommendation with tools, and I know it might be hard to believe when people see my shop, but I've got a decade of work invested in building this shop to what it is, and I use it every single day. So that's why my tools look the way that they do. But if I were in a hobbyist situation, my shop would probably look very different right now. You don't necessarily need all of these big tools to get the job done. Ronnie asks, does using dominoes, biscuits, or dowels help or hurt when making a spring joint? Well, it depends on where and how they're used. Remember, you're only gluing the middle. So whether you have a tongue and groove or a domino or biscuits, whatever your method of joinery there is, it's really a matter of where you secure it with glue. In the middle, doesn't matter what type of joint it is, if you just glue it in the middle, you'll be fine. Putting them on the outside is a really good idea, and at that point though, they're really only helping, for the most part, with alignment and keeping everything aligned. So if you're doing the sprung joint, I don't really think it's going to be too much of a factor as long as you have movement side to side. So let's say you're using the domino, you may want to put the domino in one side at the tightest setting, and then in the panel, make them at the next higher loose setting, so there's a little bit of movement to the left and right. That will allow the panel to expand and contract while being secured in the middle. All right? So you always want to allow it to move no matter what you do. But it shouldn't negatively impact the sprung joint at all.
I'll give you two. You want two more?
Just
one more?
Yeah, let's. Okay, yeah, two more. And like I said, I'm going to cherry pick these for the edit because I don't want to have too many questions.
Yeah.
Do you own a Japanese saw? How often do you use it? Well, I've got this little guy, sort of my general utility dozuki. Is that a dozuki? Yeah, it's a dozuki. I've always wanted to get a Ryoba, the one that's like two-sided. One is cross-cut, the other is rip, but I've just I don't really have a need for it. It's more of a want. This guy is just my general utility saw. I use it to cut ebony plugs. Nice, sharp, fine teeth. I find it's just good for general stuff. You can see I've got a decent selection of rip, cross-cut, and dovetail Western saws that do fine for me, that I don't really necessarily feel like I need to go down that route. It would be duplicating things that I already have. But Japanese tools are fantastic. Once you get used to using them, some people don't ever want to go back because the cut is a little bit different. We're on the push stroke for your Western saws, pull stroke for your Japanese Japanese style saws, so it just depends on your personal preference. But me, I tend to just favor my Western saws because that's what I have. Colin Burris, I am just starting out. What would be better spending my money on, a table saw or a compound miter saw? Thanks, Mark. This may be a different answer depending on who you ask, but for me, I would say a table saw. I find a table saw to be one of the most versatile tools, and although it's kind of been made the enemy of the woodworking world just because it has a high potential for injury and mistakes, it still is one of the most versatile tools we can have, from cutting parts down and cutting down plywood, milling, and getting your joints set up. Think about all the different types of joints you could do at the table saw just with a few add-ons. You could build sleds for it, cross-cut sleds, get a miter gauge and make a finger joint jig. You can get a tenoning jig. There's just so much that you can do with that table saw that for me personally, if I had to choose one or the other, I would go with the table saw first. There are points where you might say, oh, it'd be really nice to have a miter saw for this, but most of that stuff you can also accomplish at the table saw. I don't think that the tools are necessarily redundant though. A miter saw probably is in your future, but I think you're going to get further and do more with that table saw. Okay, last one from the peanut gallery. This is Texfire. How you doing, dude? It's been a while. Do you feel that woodworking as a craft is still in decline, or are we in the middle of a resurgence? That's a really tough question and a good one, because it's one of those things that I don't think we can really figure out. We can all debate it and we can, yap our gums about this as much as we want, but the reality is it isn't until a few years go by and we look at things in retrospect that we'll truly understand what's happening. If you ask one group of people, not to point fingers, but let's say, magazines, let's say old school publications, and you ask them how woodworking is doing, they're gonna think of it as a sinking ship. They think that maybe their readership is in decline, so to them, the audience is dying off. And I've heard that phrase said before, where woodworkers are dying faster than they're being replaced. My opinion is that they're looking in the wrong places. Last month's episode of TWW Live, we talked about makers versus woodworkers. And if you look in the maker community, there is so much going on there, and I think that ties in well to a lot of the DIY community as well. There are so many people getting into it. Now, it may not be what we traditionally think of as a woodworker. The old bearded guy in his shop, whittling away at something. These are people with new ideas, new concepts, new ways to get things done, and really, more importantly, new ways to communicate what they're doing. So I think that the craft of creating things, be it in wood, plastic, metal, yarn, God forbid, no matter what the medium is, I think there is a creative vein, in our world of, especially the online world, that is alive and well. So if you ask me, I don't think anything is in decline. I think it's changing. There's a big change going on right now. Now, where we end up after this, will some of these makers get into the finer parts of wood craftsmanship? To me, the bottom line is the more people who are interested in making things with their hands, the bigger the pool of people that we can then inspire to go into specialized areas. So we have to have this stuff out there to get people interested. So maybe someone got into this because they wanted to build a robot, and then they learned how to cut plywood as a part of the process. And then that person's mom says, oh, hey, you know how to use a table saw. Can you do some flooring for me? And then it sort of snowballs until the person is building furniture. So you don't know where these people are going to get that inspiration, where it's going to come from. And they may not immediately start out going, I want to be a furniture maker, but they may end up there, right? So for me, from my perspective, I think the outlook is good. When I look at my stats on our website, when I look at things going on other people's YouTube channels, as well as my own, I can't help but see a bright future for making things, and that includes wood. That's a great question.
That was a great question.
Are we done? Yeah, I think we're done. Very quickly, just a couple of TWW Live hashtag questions we'll rip through. This is if you want to ask a very quick question on Twitter. I'm more than happy to answer it from Mark Nyland. He says, why can't I keep my shop as clean as yours? Because you don't have an Arlie. Arlie is my stepfather, and about once a week he comes into the shop and does a nice little thorough cleaning. He gets paid for his work, so I'm not that cheap. But he does come behind, and you should have seen this floor was coated with sawdust and shavings yesterday, but he came in, did a nice little cleaning, and it's done. And that's very helpful. And since I have a lot of electronics in here, I'm in here every day. I like my shop space to be clean because that's the kind of environment that inspires me to do good work. And I probably would not be able to do it without help. So that would be why. Clan Camplison says, any advice on space saving in a small 10 by 13 shop? Mobile bases and magazine articles would be my recommendation. And you know, the thing is, I like to think of myself as being in a good position to recommend to people what to do in a small space. That's not true at all. Basically, mobile bases are the way to go. If you can, especially in small spaces where you have shared space, you want to be able to get the stuff out of the way, put it back, roll things under other things. And what I meant by magazine articles is I've seen a lot of good articles in the past covering specialty situations of very small shops. I recall a great article by Fine Woodworking. I'll have to see if I can find the link that shows a guy who just has this masterfully designed workspace where everything tucks in and then pulls out, and he's not missing anything, but he was very clever about the way he organized it. So I think mobility is key, and then look at some of these shop things and try to find some inspiration there. Go to our website, to thewoodwhisperer.com, and click on shop tours. You can actually dial into small shops based on size and see if you can find some inspiration there as well. Last one from JMK89. He says, do you use in-feed, out-feed support for the bandsaw? Any ideas? It might be the best way to approach this. I do use some support, but it's roller stands. I know folks who have built permanent supports or ones that can kind of roll out of the way. That's great. I just haven't had the time or really the inclination to do that. Roller stands, when I need that sort of outfeed or infeed support, a roller stand on each side does a fine job for me. Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up now. Mm-hmm. You want to come in and say goodbye?
Yep. Well, we want to remind everybody that we do this every first Friday of the month.
Yes.
So well, that's the plan.
And sometimes we might have to move it, but we'll let you know.
There's a holiday this month, so that's why we're doing it on a Wednesday.
So the next one is going to be Friday, August 1st, 1 p.m. Eastern, same time, same channel. Also, contact info, you can find us at thewoodwhisperer.com. Of course, our YouTube channel. What is the YouTube channel? It's youtube.com/users/thewoodwhisperer.
You don't have to put the user in.
Really?
Yeah, you just do the Wood Whisperer.
That's news to me, Nicole.
I know.
Thanks for the heads up on that.
I've done it before.
You're awesome. You can also send us a question to the hashtag TWW Live and catch us on Facebook, facebook.com/thewoodwhisperer. All right, I think that wraps it up. Thanks for watching again, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye. Thanks for participating.
Yeah, thanks for participating. She's good.
I know, right? Tongue-tied.
All right. I'm going to stop the recording. If there are any lagging questions as we're closing up shop here, let me know.
A lot of people keep asking, why don't you do metric?
Why don't I do metric?
And I said,
because I'm in Arizona.
Yeah, we live in the States.
Here's the thing with metric and imperial. Like, I agree. I have a science background. I grew up measuring things in millimeters and liters, and all of my volumetric measurements were in metric. And the system does make sense. The problem is, it's not like if I think it makes sense, I could just move over to it. It actually makes my life more difficult. And people who build furniture typically have to communicate what they're building and communicate size references and things like that so that clients understand and other people understand it. You also have to have these things agree with the tools that you have in your shop. So if your tools are not metric, you actually are just making your life more difficult. We, in America, we grow up with this system. So just like, you know, maybe English isn't the easiest language to learn. Well, it was easy for me because I grew up with it. Mm-hmm. Same thing with our measurement system. Yes, fractions are stupid. Like the ridiculous fractions that we measure in the shop are stupid, but I know them. I understand it. I've already learned it. So the metric system could be the easiest thing in the world, but until the rest of the country decides that it's a good idea to adopt it and we can all switch together, it isn't going to happen.
Think of, I was making a joke in the chat room and I said, we'll switch as soon as you learn to drive on the right side of the road.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, think about that. I mean,
it's along those lines. It's just something,
your brain thinks one way.
But the driving thing is sort of an arbitrary thing. In this case, the metric system truly is a better system. But it's one that has the imperial system just has a lot of history here in the States, and it is incredibly difficult to think about the whole country switching. I wish we would. But yeah, and here's the thing, SketchUp is great. SketchUp will allow you to convert immediately, like an entire model to metric if you want to. So anything that we produce, we do usually make it in SketchUp, and you can have those conversions done in no time. All right, we good? Yeah, I think we're good. All right, thanks everybody. This was a blast as always, and we'll see you next month. I'm going off screen with a sweet dance. Should I go the other way now? Going off screen. These moves. Oh yeah, I gotta kill the feed, don't I? This is the point, you know what, I should make it a tradition after every show to go pee. And then like the camera will be off and just pretend that I don't know that the microphone is on.
Naked Gun.
Yeah, and I'll just go pee. Be like, oh, that was a terrible show. What are we doing? Where's the stop button?